panam pananam pam pam panana pam panam pam 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 panana pam panam pananam pam pam panana pam panam pam.
Your voice, your music, your station. WGHC 98.3 FM.
All right, thank you all for tuning in to WJC 98.3 FM, your voice and music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I'm a serial entrepreneur as well as a wealth multiplier. I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises, LLC, which is a multinational conglomerate in the tax industry. Multinational conglomerate in the tax, accounting, and finance industry. We provide a suite of accounting and finance services, including tax preparation, planning, representation, and services of that nature. You can find us on BaduEnterprises.com. That's our central website, and each company also has its own website as well. So today we'll be talking about a topic on essentially the process, or not even a process, but just the differences between buying versus renting a home. So we'll be talking about the pros and cons of each, just so you guys can get a better sense of what are some of the financial benefits, non-financial benefits, things of that nature. So just wanted to point that out. Before that, let's start that off with a market report. This report is as of November 29, 2019. The holiday shortened week was a good one for investors as they were encouraged by growing likelihood of phase one in the resolution of the trade war between China and the United States. The large caps of the Dow and S&P 500 reached record highs earlier in the week, as did the tech stocks of the NASDAQ, although the Dow lost some momentum following Turkey Day, also known as Thanksgiving in the U.S. By the close of the markets on Friday, the Russell 2000 had surged almost 2.25%, followed by the NASDAQ, which gained over 1.70%. The S&P 500 rose almost 1.0%. The Dow moved ahead 0.63%, and the global Dow picked up more than 0.25%. Oil prices fell from $57.89 per barrel to $55.17 per barrel. Price of COMEX gold went up $14.6250 per ounce to $14.6560 per ounce. So far this year, the Dow Jones is up 20.25%. NASDAQ is up 30.60%. You didn't hear that wrong. Let me repeat that. The NASDAQ, which is composed of mainly technology stocks, is up 30.60% as of November 29, 2019. That is huge right there. I mean, I've never seen a year this good in my life. S&P 500 is up 25.30%. Massive gains right now in the markets. Russell 2000 is up 20.46%. Global Dow is up 15.14%. Federal funds rate is currently at 1.50 to 1.75%. And the 10-year treasuries are currently at 1.77%. So thank you guys once again for tuning in to Money Talks. This is WJC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I think earlier we had a comment saying, can anyone else hear him? So hopefully you guys can hear me. But essentially, what we'll be talking about today is the buying versus renting, or buying versus leasing a home or renting a home. This topic is a very sensitive one, especially to many folks that are listening. Most people who are millennials tend to be significantly impacted by this topic. So we'll just go through some of the advantages as well as the disadvantages when it comes to buying versus renting. So the first thing is the tax code favors The tax code truly favors those who own. So if you own something in the United States or anywhere in the world, you'll be favored, or the tax code will favor you. Whether you're a business owner, homeowner, stock owner, any type of owner, you usually have more tax benefits than somebody who's renting. So that's the first thing to point out there. Next is buying versus renting is a heavily debated topic. It's something that is extremely heavily debated. You'll hear in the news all the time, or if you listen to financial news, it's something a lot of people talk about, buying versus renting, owning versus renting. It's a very hot topic, especially among the millennial generation. I think it's something that's very huge. Now, renting is viewed, to me, in my opinion, renting is viewed as essentially throwing money away, although it's not necessarily true. I mean, basically, most people who look at somebody who rents, they think that they're basically throwing money away. Financially, it's not necessarily true. The first reason is because of the time value of money. Basically, by renting for a specific period of time versus owning, you can use the difference between the rents or the mortgage payment and the owning a home and the taxes and everything, and compare it to the rent that you're paying, and you can see that there could be a time value of money difference right there, where essentially you can take that money that you would have used to pay the mortgage and use it to invest it into something that's earning you a return. Let's say a rental property, a stock, bond, whatever it is. Basically, there's a time value of money that accumulates over time, since you're usually, some people, or in most cases, some people spend less money when they rent a home as opposed to buying a home because of maintenance and all those other costs, which we'll be talking about. One thing to note nowadays, rent has gone high, especially in the city of Chicago. So rent prices can be as high as mortgage rates or mortgage payments. So that's just something to consider. That concept of time value of money was really back in the day. Nowadays, rents have gone up due to higher demand and also inflation. Now, one thing is you can benefit from lower rent payments as well as no down payment, basically. So the same concept, sometimes people have lower rent payments, and also they don't have to put money down when they're renting a home. In some cases, sometimes they have to turn in a security deposit. So this is really where the time value of money issue or concept comes from. So basically, the only way to truly capture from this benefit as a renter is if you invested the difference, which unfortunately most people don't. They go out and spend it, and they just don't have good use or good utility for that money. So just a few things to note there, just the time value of money concept. Some people find renting to be more advantageous than buying. I mean, I personally don't. I'm a huge proponent of buying versus renting. I personally don't really rent anything, including cars, rooms. No matter what it is, I usually don't rent anything. Other things to note, buying and selling a home can be very stressful and frustrating. I mean, it's a long process. You have to sit at a closing table for a few hours during closing. And even before you get to the closing, you usually have to go through about a month or two of paperwork. That can be very stressful, as opposed to somebody just signing a lease, going through a background check, checking the place, and then just going ahead and being locked in as a tenant. So just a few things to note with there is that it can be a little stressful and frustrating when you're buying a home, because it's a long game. It's a big investment. You're being entrusted by a bank with such a large investment, and ultimately they do a lot of due diligence. And of course, you should always do your due diligence when it comes to these things. You need proper planning and education before you make the decision. So just something to keep in mind there. You definitely need to make sure you're planning correctly, and you're educating yourself. You're attending seminars. You're attending home buying seminars. You are reaching out to people who've owned a home. You're reading articles like the ones that I've written on my website. You're just doing things in order to make the best decision possible on the decision between buying versus renting. Ultimately, I think it's smarter to own a home as opposed to renting a home. But we'll talk about exactly why in a second. These are just some of the basics as to just to lay the foundation a little bit. Now, before you buy a home or before you buy or rent a home, you should consider these things. Consider the price of the home. Consider the amount of the down payment that you have to make. Some loans you can get 0% down, VA loans, things of that nature. They also have FHA loans where you can get 3.5% down, and the government can subsidize you up to a certain amount. You should look at current interest rates. Interest rates are pretty low right now, so just a few things to hear. And then also you should consider the price of the home. So that's just something to note. Just a few things to note there. Now we did get a comment saying that on Facebook saying that they can't hear for some reason. So hopefully people can hear. Not exactly sure what's going on with the sound, but the mic is on, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Just want to make sure everybody can hear. Let me actually turn on Facebook Live. Okay, so yeah, the sound is actually working on Facebook. I'm not sure what exactly is working. But sorry for the interruption, because I got 2 comments saying they couldn't hear me. But I'll do my best throughout the presentation. All right, so we left off. We said the first thing you should consider is the price of the home, the amount of your down payment, the current interest rates. So you should always consider the current interest rates. Consider the current property tax rate. So you always want to factor in property taxes. The city of Chicago has one of the highest property tax rates in the country, specifically Cook County. So always consider your federal income tax bracket. That's also something you should consider. And then consider how long you intend to live in a home. So if you plan to live in a home for a long time, or if you plan to be where you are for a long time, then you might be better off just buying it. And then the amount of rent you're currently paying. So you just have to compare it. You might need a financial advisor or some sort of financial expert to help you weigh the costs and benefits. But I will tell you specifically some of the advantages and the disadvantages, also known as the cost-benefit analysis of buying versus renting. So let's talk about the advantages of renting. So renting, there's non-financial and then there's financial benefits. With the non-financial, it's easy to change places. So you can move around as much as you want. I mean, you're a renter. You're the most you're probably stuck in is a 1-year lease. You can move it around, and even that you can sublease it. So it's easy to change places as long as you're not breaking the lease. So that's one thing to note. And then also, it's good for those who are relocating for work often. Maybe you travel a lot. Maybe you're always moving around. You're a typical millennial who's always on the go. This might be a great option for you. This is why a lot of millennials are renters nowadays. They're not homeowners because they move around with work so much that I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just confusion, or maybe it's just lack of clarity. I mean, I don't know what it is, but millennials, I've noticed this because I work with a lot of millennials. They move around quite a lot. So if you move around a lot, then home ownership, at least personal home ownership, just might not be the best for you. It might be renting because you move around so much. It's good for people who consistently need a change of scenery. So if you consistently need to change and you just need what's called a change of scenery, then it might be good for you. I mean, whatever that means, right? Of course, it's going to cost you a lot of money. I know some people who are moving like every year, every 2 years. This is costing you a lot of money. Moving expenses. I've only moved a few times in my life, and that's only because I had to. For example, moving from college to a full-time professional. I had to make that move. Moving from when I was renting, I literally rented 1 year out of college and then bought my home basically that following year. So for me, I knew renting wasn't for me. I valued home ownership. I did make the mistake of buying a condo, which I do not recommend anybody buying, especially as your first property, because why buy a condo when you can buy a 3 to 4 unit building and rent out 3 of the units or 2 of the units, live in 1 unit, rent free basically. I mean, when you talk about financial and non-financial, I mean, that's a tremendous financial benefit of owning. And that's what you can use FHA or conventional loan as low as 3.5% down payment to get that type of home. So people who need a change of scenery, this is really good for you. As a renter, it is a non-financial benefit of renting a home. Now, another non-financial benefit. So So you don't need to find a handyman, or you don't need to find any of these people. You can basically do your own basically the landlord is the one responsible for the repair. So all you have to do, if something breaks, assuming you didn't break it, but if something breaks, all you have to do is call the landlord, put in a maintenance request, they come and fix it, no charge, no questions asked. Now, if something you broke or you messed up, then that's a cost on you. So just something to keep that in mind. And then there's no need to maintain the property. Of course, keep your area clean. I mean, my tenants know me very well, in that we don't play when it comes to cleanliness and keeping a property in a decent, livable area. We do inspections, let's say on a monthly basis. Sometimes I might have somebody who physically inspects the property. It might be my termite guy, my bug guy, who comes in and inspects the property, sees what's going on. And if anything breaks, anything is damaged or anything, the tenant has to pay for it. We can use their security deposit as collateral for that, or we can charge them after they move out if they exceed the security deposit. So you have to be very careful with the property. Just because you don't have to maintain it, meaning mowing the lawn or any. Some people, I mean, this one you have to negotiate with your landlord. But I mean, you don't have to usually do snow removal or things of that nature. It's really everything is getting taken care of by the landlord usually, and there's no fees as long as you don't damage the property. So those are the 3 non-financial benefits. It's very flexible to be a renter as far as moving in and out of places. You don't need to hire anybody to do repairs. And then last but not least, no need to maintain the property, meaning taking care of the exterior and all those things. If a furnace breaks or anything like that, no need to be responsible for that. Now, financially, and that can also tie it into the financials as well. But financially, there's no need for a down payment when you're renting. No need for down payment, no need for closing costs, no need to pay property taxes, although a security deposit is often required. So when you're comparing the two decisions, please be sure to compare a security deposit versus a down payment on all these other upfront costs. There's no need to purchase new appliances or remodel the place, so no cost on you. Usually the landlord takes care of that. For example, one of my units right now is undergoing construction. So it's just a quick 1 month, just clean it up, getting ready for the next tenant. We have to be responsible for that, just so we can get it ready for the tenant. And for those tuning in, thank you for tuning in to WJC 98.3 FM, your voice and music, your station. This is the show Money Talks, where all we talk is money. And today's topic is on buying versus renting a home. If you would like to contribute, you can please chime in live on Facebook. We're streaming right live on Facebook. You can comment. You can ask questions. You can do whatever you want, basically. And then along with that, if you would like to call into the studio, it's 773-942-7167. Once again, 773-942-7167. So let's move right into the topic. So no need to purchase new appliances. And then also you can generally rent for less than a month. This is very key right here. This is the decision. When people make this decision, this is the part that they usually make the decision most based upon. So you can generally rent for less than the monthly cost of owning. So you can generally rent for less than a monthly cost of owning a place. Although places like Chicago's rent price are pretty high, at least in my opinion. I mean, for these single family homes, we're charging, even on the south side of Chicago, let's say in South Shore, we're charging tenants $1,400 to $1,500 per month. Even in Dalton. I mean, Dalton is not known for being the best place in the world to live. We're even charging $1,500 a month over there for a single family home. So median rent per month in Chicago is roughly about $1,500, give or take. It's about $1,500 or so. So I mean, if you consider that a mortgage, I mean, I know some people pay way less than $1,500 a month to own a home. Imagine renting. Imagine if you paid $1,500 a month for the next 30 years of your life. I mean, do you know how much money you would have wasted? As a matter of fact, instead of telling you, why not actually show you? So if you were to spend, and of course rent prices just keep going up. They're not going down anytime soon. If you're spending $1,500 a month, I have a calculator out right now. $1,500 per month times 12, so that's $18,000 in a year. $18,000 in 1 year in rent. Times 30, that's $540,000. And that's not even including time value of money, inflation. We're not even including those things in there. We're just talking raw dollars, today's dollars. We're not factoring all the other financial benefits. I could tell you right now, if you handed me $1,500 a month for the next even 10 years, I would give you $1 million back, guaranteed. I mean, it's $1,500 a month, right? Times 12 is $18,000 in 1 year. Times 10, even 10 years, $180,000. That's insane. I looked at it. I mean, when I was making this, I mean, I didn't really have any decision to make. I already knew I was going to be a homeowner. But in my calculations, I was like, you know what? Let's just look at the math a little bit. Why in the world would I spend $1,500 a month to rent a place that I don't have control over? And we'll talk about some of the disadvantages, which of course are advantages of buying. But I can't do all these things, and I'm paying $1,500 a month with nothing to show for it at the end. I don't have equity. I don't have tax benefits. I don't have appreciation. I mean, I don't have anything. I'm just paying $1,500 a month. Why? Why in the world would you do that? Or maybe it's credit. Well, you can get an FHA loan as little as 580 credit score. Of course, that's not ideal, but hey, at least you can get in. They have down payment assistance programs. Why in the world would you spend $1,500 a month on a place for the next 10 years of your life? It makes absolutely no sense financially. And I don't think this is something smart anybody should be doing. Of course, you have to factor in everything. But if I was to base the decision off this alone, which is what most people tend to base the decision off of, I would be very, very, very cautious with that. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of renting, which also known as the advantages of buying. So anything that I say is an advantage, it's a disadvantage of the other. So it's the opposite. So disadvantages of renting: rent payments are not tax deductible on your tax return unless, of course, you're a business owner. So mortgage interest and property taxes are deductible if you itemize on your Schedule A. This is if you own a home. The effective cost of owning a home may be lower than it appears to be compared to renting when you factor in all these costs. And we do have a quick question here from Ashley Kirkwood. Shout out to Ashley. Congrats on the baby. Are there benefits to owning a single family home? I sometimes feel there's less advantages. Yeah, that's a great question, Ashley. I would say if this is your first, she says, we own a single family home and with an increase in taxes, we're at almost $3,000 a month. Wow. I mean, that must be a nice, pretty home. So I would say, my opinion with single family homes, they're not a bad investment, by the way. So anything I say, it's not that single family homes are a bad investment. If it's your first investment, I think you should aim for a 3 to 4 unit multifamily 3 to 4 unit with an FHA loan, VA loan, whatever it takes to get that property. Because you can create true wealth in that. Not only are you building equity over time, gaining tax benefits and all these things. I did write a book called The Legendary Asset, 6 Reasons Why You Should Own Real Estate, which goes very in depth into the details behind those reasons. But on top of that, you're basically wiping out your mortgage payments because somebody else is paying them for you. Now, of course, you can have vacancies, tenants not paying you, which is why you do your due diligence, just like you were doing it as you bought the home. It doesn't stop there. It continues as you're acquiring tenants, you're maintaining the property. Eventually, you probably want to get a property manager on staff. So I would say, with a single family home, I like it. I don't like it as my first investment. or my first home, though. I like it as maybe my second home, because then basically, I mean, you're not disqualified from getting a 3 to 4 unit with 3.5 or 5% down payment, but it's just a little harder to convince underwriters to give you a loan of that little down payment and say it's a 3 to 4 unit on your second home. So for your first home, my advice is to get 3 to 4 units, and preferably go for the 4. Don't focus on price so much. Focus on value. It doesn't matter if it costs $400,000, $500,000. If it's producing you $5,000 a month in rent, then I think you're fine. So single family, I like as a second investment. I would not necessarily like it as a first investment. But let's say that you did decide to make it your first investment. I mean, that's fine. You got in. This $3,000 a month could have easily went to rent. I mean, I know some people that are paying $3,000 a month for rent. So it's better utility that way. Do I think you could have found a better deal? Perhaps. I think so. I mean, I think $3,000 a month is on a higher end, I would say, of the folks that I've met and I know. But at the same time, hey, you're building equity in the property. Eventually, you might want to consider getting a HELOC, home equity line of credit, knocking down some of that principal to cut down on your interest costs. Well, at least you can deduct the interest, the property taxes, and mortgage interest. So effectively, Ashley, you're not really paying $3,000 a month. You're probably paying more like $2,500, $2,600 a month if you consider the after-tax benefits, which is to the point of the effective cost of owning a home may be lower than it appears compared to renting. So, yeah, she said it was $1,950 a month, but it went way up. Whoa, yeah, that I think what you got to do, Ashley, you have to get a property tax appeal. And if you need a property tax appeal specialist, I actually do assist with that. So you can feel free to reach out to me, 773-679-7198. Once again, 773-679-7198. You can visit baduappeals.com and get a free estimate, essentially. But if your mortgage went up that high, assuming nothing major changed as far as the structure of the mortgage, assuming there's no refinance or anything, I mean, I think you definitely need a second opinion, second look on the tax bill, because that's insane. Taxes are getting up there in Chicago and Illinois. So I would highly recommend that you get some sort of property tax appeal of some sort. And maybe look into the insurance. Maybe the insurance is too high as well. And just look at some of these things. But the mortgage itself, and also assuming it's not a variable rate mortgage, which is one of the worst mortgages in the world to get. Usually fixed rate mortgage is better than variable rate mortgage. So just consider all these things. Ashley, if you want, we can take a look at your mortgage statement and see what exactly has caused it. I mean, it probably is the property taxes, and we can definitely do something about it. There's no way that property taxes should bump you up that high, though. So just, yeah, you definitely want to, from $1,950 to $3,000 a month. I mean, that's, something's wrong there. Somebody is making a little too much money. So that's my advice there. Hopefully that answers your question, Ashley. But moving on with that, so you ultimately need to calculate the after-tax benefit. So even though Ashley is paying $3,000 a month, her after-tax is still probably $2,600 a month. So there's some incentive right there versus somebody who's paying $3,000 a month in rent. They're not getting any tax benefits, unless, of course, they're a business owner. But no tax benefits whatsoever. It's like, why in the world should you do that? So just a few things to note there. So now let's talk about the advantages of buying now. And we have to move it along a little bit. But the non-financial benefits of buying is that owning a home is known as the American dream. I mean, let's face it. If we live in America, we came to America. I know myself. I'm somebody who immigrated from Ghana to America. I mean, I was sold an American dream. You own your home. You own your own business. I mean, you're just living comfortably. You're not living like the way you used to. You're living in a nice big home. It's just that sense of security, that sense of comfort, that sense of success that you've made it, quote unquote. You've done something good. So yeah, this is essentially that reward of that American dream they talk about. Owning a home provides a sense of security. So you don't have to worry about a landlord kicking you out. Although, if you don't pay your mortgage on time, guess who's knocking on at the door? It's your bank. If you default, let's say 6 months or more, you're out of that home, known as foreclosure. So although a landlord can't kick you out, a bank can, or whoever you owe money to. And usually houses are encumbered, so they have some type of loan on them. So you, as long as you're paying your bill on time and everything, you don't have to worry about a landlord kicking you out. Landlords, sometimes they're doing renovations, or maybe they found a better tenant. So you don't have to worry about that. You won't have to deal with an increase in rent. Although, of course, you can deal with an increase in property taxes, homeowners insurance, assessments if you own a condo. So you have to be very careful in these analysis and these facts and these things of that nature. Now, of course, you can appeal your property taxes up to 3 times a year. Typically, 3 times a year in Illinois, specifically Cook County. So you can appeal at the assessor level, and then you can also appeal at the Board of Review. Last but not least, the Property Tax Appeal Board, also known as PTAB. So you can appeal at these 3 levels. And if you do need a free analysis, free assessment, I can help you appeal your property taxes. I'll do a free assessment for you. I'll tell you exactly how much you're overpaying, and then we can talk about price and structure and things of that nature. The company is Badu Appeals, LLC, and that's where we do all our tax appeals through. Of course, as an investor myself, I use my own product. So I appeal my property taxes through my own company. Now let's talk about the financial benefits of owning a home. Big one is tax deductions. Tax laws strongly favor homeowners, although the new tax reform removed some tax benefits. For example, acquisition indebtedness, or the loan on a home, the maximum it can be in order for you to deduct the interest is $750,000. And then you're also limited to $10,000 in state and local income and property taxes. It's just painful for those who own a big home. So just a few things to keep in mind there. Now, we do have a question. I always like to go into the questions before I get into the material. So how do you sell a property with an existing mortgage in place? Does the mortgage go to the buyer? Yeah, so good question, Ellis. We have Ellis Dudley, who's part of the Badu brand, the Badu Tax Services team. How do you sell a property with an existing mortgage? What basically happens is that the seller, so you put your property on the market for sale, and basically the seller or the buyer who's buying your property, at the closing table, wherever the funds are coming from, those funds will be used to pay the mortgage first. So your existing mortgage will be paid at closing. Literally, it happens at closing simultaneously. And then title transfers over to the new owner once the loan has been paid off. And then you take whatever difference, or you pay whatever difference at closing. So hopefully that answers your question. The mortgage does not go to the buyer. The mortgage simply gets paid off by the buyer, whether they got a loan or whether they paid cash for the property, which is not typical. So tax laws strongly favor those who own. So just something to keep in mind there. Now, you can get what's known as a homeowner's exclusion. So if you sell your home and qualify, usually you have to live in there for 2 out of the past 5 tax years. It simply means you have to live in a home for the past 2 years before you sold it. You may exclude up to $250,000 of your capital gains from taxes. So this is huge right here. If you bought a home for $100,000 and it appreciated 2 years later, and you lived in there, appreciated to $350,000, you can sell it and pay not a single penny in income taxes. And then for married couples, the exclusion is $500,000, which is usually why I encourage my clients to get married, because the tax benefits basically double once you get married. Another benefit is equity. Equity is huge. This is actually one of the biggest reasons why people buy homes. As a homeowner, you can borrow. So the first thing is, as you're paying your mortgage, or as a tenant is paying your mortgage, you're building equity in the property. Equity is simply the difference between the value of the home and the loan amount on the home or the mortgage. So if your value is $200,000 and your loan amount is $150,000, you have $50,000 in equity. equity, meaning that money that you can basically benefit off of, profit, let's just call it. And let's say your house appreciates to $250,000. Your loan is still $150,000. Now you've just created $50,000 or more equity. So now you have $100,000 in equity, money that you can sell the home and take that $100,000 and cash it out. Of course, you can get this tax free if you use the homeowner's exclusion. But as a homeowner, you can borrow against the equity. So let's say that $100,000 increase or the $100,000 in equity, you can borrow against it. You can basically take out a loan or a credit card, let's call it, known as a HELOC or home equity line of credit, or a second mortgage. So literally, they can hand you $100,000 cash, $100,000 cash at the closing table. Usually there's limits, but let's say $100,000 in cash that you can use to buy another home, perhaps an investment property. Maybe this is a great time to get into investments on a serious basis. You can be involved in maybe a larger syndication. Maybe they're buying a 12-unit, 15-unit, 20-unit, and you're taking some of your money and putting it as a part of it, so you own a part of that 20-unit. Or you go out and spend it. You go to Vegas and you spend the money, which I don't recommend. But you can borrow. You can borrow against the equity in your home. The benefit of this, the reason why some people do this, is there's no tax liability when you're taking borrowed funds. I like the HELOC better than the second mortgage because the HELOC, I'm only charged if I take the money out. If I take a second mortgage, I have to start paying on that mortgage the day that I take it out, basically. Or I'm sorry, usually a month after taking it out. And the interest on a home equity loan up to $100,000 is also tax deductible. So if you pay 5% interest, that's $5,000 that you can deduct if and only if you use it for business purposes. As a part of the tax reform, the benefit of using this for personal reasons was removed. So we really have to be careful with that. Moving on, many homeowners use home equity loans to consolidate other high interest loans, such as a credit card. They make repairs or improvements and even fund a child's education. If you want to pay for your child's college, you can use a HELOC on your home. Would it make sense? Why not just go take a student loan out? I mean, why would you use a HELOC when you can just go out and get a student loan and use the HELOC money as an investment property or something? I mean, why? I mean, it just makes no sense. Unless there's a lower interest that you can get on your HELOC, but typically it doesn't make sense to do this. But you can leverage a loan to build wealth. This is what I highly recommend for those looking to get started in real estate, for those looking to advance their real estate. The power of borrowing money against your own property to buy more properties is called leverage. This is truly a powerful thing. It's what can help you go from 1 property to 10 properties. Can help you go from no properties to 1 property. I mean, leverage is powerful. Of course, it's a gift and a curse, so you must use it wisely. Lenders will generally allow you to borrow up to 80 to 90% of the value of your home. So usually what happens, they get an appraisal on the home, and then you can end up taking out the second mortgage or the home equity line of credit or the HELOC. Now let's talk about the last benefit, financial benefit of owning a home. It's asset appreciation, which ties to your equity. If the value of your home increases, the profit is all yours when you sell it. It's not the bank's. So if I buy a house at $100,000 that's occupied by a 90% loan and I had to put down 10%, if the property appreciates 6%, the bank doesn't get any of that appreciation. I get $6,000 return, or I get a 6% return on my investment, and the bank doesn't get anything. So this can be truly powerful appreciation. Real estate usually appreciates by about 6% every year. So imagine, right? You only put in $10,000 into an investment that's worth $100,000, and it goes up in value by $6,000. $6,000 divided by $10,000, your initial investment, that's what we call cash on cash return, 60%. We haven't even factored in the tax benefits. We haven't even factored in the fact that you could be collecting rent on this property. We haven't factored in the fact that you can use that money to borrow more money, or you can use leverage. So just on appreciation alone, cash on cash appreciation, 10,000. All you had to put in was 10,000, and this property appreciated by 6%. So by 6,000, 6,000 divided by 10,000 is 60%. That is powerful. And you only have to put in 10% down payment. Powerful stuff. Usually the down payment on investment properties is between 20 to 25%. But there's ways around it. Trust me. If you're an investor putting that much down, I mean, usually you might need some more education and knowledge on how to buy real estate. So you benefit from the increased value of the entire property, even though originally you used only a small portion of your own money to finance the property. And lastly, your home value will more than likely rise over time, just like the stock market. Real estate tends to increase, usually about 6%. And in a down market, people say, well, what about a recession? Well, if you have tenants in your home, guess what? In a recession, they're dying to still rent, because they can't buy anything. They can't buy a home, and they need a place to live. So who cares about a recession? So what if your home value goes down, assuming you're a renter? Now, if you're an owner, you might suffer this, or you might feel this pain. But just to conclude, whether to rent or buy depends on many different factors. We talked about a lot of things here. Always remember the tax benefits. It's very important. Real estate, to me, the tax benefits is basically one of the top 3 reasons why I buy real estate as an investment, or even as a place that I live. Always keep your goals in mind. Always keep your goals in mind. Typically better to be an owner than a renter. It's really simple. We just laid it all out here today. And I would much rather put money into something that will actually grow over time. When I'm renting, whether the property, this owner might be the one earning the growth, and I'm not earning anything because I'm a renter. Whether I'm paying $1,500 a month, or whether the property appreciates or not, I don't get any of that. Last but not least, build wealth and pass it on to the next generation. I think we all should be striving for this. Imagine if your parents handed you down a 6-unit building to help you start your wealth building journey. So thank you guys for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu. Hopefully you guys gain some insight for this. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, 773-679-7198. Once again, 773-679-7198. I'm always open for comments, questions. You can visit my website, jeffbadu.com, jeffbadu.com. Releasing 2 books next year that you should check out, How to Become a Millionaire and Infinite Expansion. So love this topic, near and dear to my heart, and we'll be back next week. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM.
But we are nothing's friend. From the see the first time, want to trust since then. Can I why you get anything you like? Long as you alright, then me alright. Me know you man, that's why I'm alive.
Your voice, your music.
Whether me in a skirt or jeans or short shorts, head race when me walk past. Me feel the eyes, believe the eye.